Welcome to the Awaken Heart Podcast. I'm your host, Nancy Walters. Get ready to create magic and miracles as you lean into your heart's desires. I believe not only does the heart want what it wants, but it knows. This show is a weekly deep dive into what it means to live from an awakened heart. I'll be sharing inspiring stories and real conversations with people just like you, who have turned the ordinary into the extraordinary. My mission is to show you how you too can be connected and heart-centered in every area of your life. Your journey to aligning with more love, more joy, and your wildest dreams come true starts now. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Awaken Heart Podcast. I'm your host, Nancy Walters, and today we're going to talk about human design once again. And I know that we've had some episodes on the human design. It's such a cool tool to really understand your energetic blueprint and how it can empower you to harness the strengths and navigate the interactions in your life with greater ease and authenticity. Today, we're going to focus in on the manifestors, which is one of the four main energy types alongside the generators, the manifesting generators, and projectors. Manifestors are characterized by their ability to initiate and create change in the world. From what I understand, it's a really rare type. There's not a lot of people that are manifestors. It doesn't represent a lot of the population. You might not have even run into someone that is a manifestor, but man, they have a ability to really create out of thin air once they really hone in on this energy type. Manifestors have a powerful, independent energy that allows them to bring their ideas and visions to life without necessarily needing to wait for an invitation or external validation. Manifestors often have a direct impact on their surroundings and are here to catalyze transformation and innovation. Now, of course, there's always challenges with every energy type. And in this one, it's managing their energy and communication style, as they can sometimes come across as abrupt or intimidating to others. Our guest today will help us dive into this more deeply. There's so much to the human design. It is so interesting and so intricate. I am thrilled to introduce our esteemed guest for today's episode, Holly Maree, who has really honed in on this type of energy, the manifestor. Her whole business model is around the manifestors and helping people understand this energy within themselves. Holly is a highly sought-after spiritual teacher who specializes in activating people into success and breakthrough. With a unique focus on human design manifestors, she teaches a new narrative of success, empowering individuals to create their own rules and redefine what it means to succeed. Drawing from over a decade of experience as a successful multimillion-dollar brick-and-mortar business owner, as well as 3 years as a multiple six-figure entrepreneur in the online space, Holly brings a wealth of wisdom and practical insights to her work. As a certified trauma-informed life and success coach, Holly guides struggling individuals to discover the unexpected strength within themselves when they reclaim their energy and align with their true purpose. With a diverse toolbox of spiritual practices, including breathwork, EFT, meditation, clinical hypnotherapy, and human design, Holly offers a holistic approach to personal and professional growth. She is also the host of the top-ranking podcast, Hunting for a Purpose. Holly helps other manifestors unlock their spiritual power and step into their fullest potential. I'm really thrilled that you're here for this conversation as we dive into the transformative conversation with Holly Maree, as she shares her mission to catapult individuals who prefer to create their own rules into a new hustle-free level of personal and professional success that celebrates their unique essence. So get ready, let's dive in, and here's today's guest, Holly Maree. Hi, Holly. Welcome to the Awaken Heart Podcast.
Thank you so much. It's really nice to be chatting with you.
It's nice to be chatting with you. And how cool is it, the technology we have, that we are connecting from clear across the planet right now because you're in Australia. And you are experiencing summer while I am experiencing 10 degrees from 72 degrees yesterday. And that's why I'm a little sniffly, as I was saying. You can probably hear it in my voice, my audience. Yes, I'm a little sniffly. So there might be a little sneezing during this episode. So yeah, it's so cool that we could connect from clear across the planet. And that's one of the great things about technology. It brings us all together and it enables someone like yourself and many others to be able to work from anywhere and to connect with people all over the world. And as we know, energy, frequency, vibration, it's not relegated to like a box in a room. It's everywhere. So healers like yourself and workers and coaches can really help heal and help activate and help train and coach people from wherever they at all over the world. So with that said, so you've got so many, gosh, your toolbox includes so many spiritual practices, human design, breath work, meditation, Reiki, EFT, and hypnosis. And you for years worked, as you say, a brick and mortar business, cafe and events, which was a multi-million-dollar company, and it was very successful. And then you moved to the online space with your spiritual coaching business. And what you did, which I think is really cool with human design, is you narrowed it down into a niche of the manifestors. And I'll have you explain when you introduce yourself and kind of give you your background, what a manifestor is. I know we've covered human design on this podcast before. I'm a generator. I have my chart and everything. But since you specify in manifestors, what it is about a manifestor. And are you a manifestor yourself?
I am, yeah.
I think you would be. Yeah. You learn about yourself and you teach
Otherwise,
others.
it'd be awkward, right?
Yes, it
really
would.
Strange, yeah.
It's always good to come from personal experience. So if you could enlighten our audience, she's got a beautiful smile, by the way. So if you're just listening to this on audio, you'll have to tune into the video portion to see this beautiful radiance that's emanating from my screen. So, all right. So Holly, tell us a little bit about your personal journey and how you transitioned from being a multi-million-dollar business owner to become certified trauma-informed life success coach. I would like to touch on what that is exactly as well and focus on your spiritual practice, particularly human design and manifestors.
Yeah, it's so weird in retrospect, right? Because at certain points in our journey, we can look back over a decade and see the timeline. I can see the linear jumps, but at the time, everything was messy, right? So you can kind of capture it in a nice, neat little package now. And I always feel like that gives
spiral.
people, I feel like it gives people this illusion that like, oh, you just like neatly make these little steps and hops and you move forward. But that's not how it's experienced. Correct. So I actually started out in nursing very far back. When I left school, I went into nursing. I came from a family of nurses. I was fascinated with the human body. I still am deeply fascinated with the human body. And like a lot of people in that medical field, just found that there was not enough holistic practice, that we were constantly in nursing just dealing with the primary crisis and then getting rid of people. And I felt like it didn't speak fully to everything that I wanted to do to connect with people. So I made a sort of random sideways jump into business. I was a friend of a friend. I'd never operated in business before. Kind of led to me working into business consultancy for years, where I would work as sort of an external consultant and come into a business for 3 to 6 months and identify what was not working, whether it was in the financial flow, whether it was the product creation, whether it was the HR and staffing or the management, and help them resolve all of those issues, and then leave once they were up and going. And that worked for me for a lot of years because it was always dynamic. It was always fluid. I was doing multiple clients at once. I was never in one place for a particularly long period of time. And eventually, I really felt like I was helping so many other people succeed, and I was not actually helping myself succeed. I was just so focused on supporting other people and giving other people what they needed, and then feeling really unseen and really unsatisfied and incredibly unfulfilled myself. So eventually an opportunity came up for me to buy a business. It was a business that I had worked with previously, and it was a big cafe venue, like a specialty cafe, that also ran events. Huge venue. It was a 350-seat venue. It was 50 staff trading 7 days a week, and they were bankrupting. So I purchased the business from them, and I mean, in reality, again, it sounds very, very pretty on the outside, but in reality, it was working 100 hours a week. It was a horrifically toxic environment full of abuse and old agendas and people trying to take money. And there was just, I came into something that was already fully formed in a lot of negativity and a lot of trauma. And financially, I was able to take that business from bankruptcy to just over $2 million annually. And that was very, very shiny and pretty and successful and lovely. And the branding was great and people raved about it.
Looks
and
good on the outside, right?
Correct. Yeah. I hated it. I detested it. I felt like it was killing me every moment. And eventually my body did go down, because the body always does, right? Even if you think that your mind can push through it, the body will always tell you what's what. So eventually I got really sick and I had to leave. And that sparked for me a huge kind of very specific spiritual awakening. I'd always been a very spiritual person, but that was my Saturn return. For those who follow astrology, it was a mess. I mean, it's like a huge trauma. It was a massive breakdown in my identity. I felt like I had to sort of be broken apart into all of the small pieces and then reform. So when I came into the online space and I started initially business coaching, because that's what I knew. I knew how to teach people business. I was still very sensitive, definitely in the healing and recovery process from what I'd been through the previous few years. And I kind of rapidly moved into spiritual business coaching, because I found that even all of the business people were coming to me actually wanted support with spirituality. They wanted support with their mindset, with their energy, with their emotional dysregulation. And that was what I was moving through personally. And I was maybe 1 or 2 steps ahead of these people, which I think is often what coaching is, right? Where we don't need to be the whole way down the track. We just need to have done a couple more steps. And that business was really beautifully successful. But what I found was I had just repeated the same pattern, which I think heaps of us do in business, right? We're not addressing what the root causes of our feelings are. We're just so caught up in trying to find the right strategy and find the right system and find the right answer. And if I can just do all of those things, then my business will be successful and then I will feel amazing. And what I discovered was I did all of that. I learned the digital landscape. It's very different to a brick and mortar business, super different.
And it keeps
learned
changing.
That all from the ground up. It does. It's so mutable. It's so crazy. And there's no rule book and there's no guidelines. It's just jump on out there and give it a go. And I followed all of the strategies and I built that business and it got up to a multiple 6-figure business. And I had that same deep feeling of I am so unsatisfied. I am so unfulfilled. This does not feel like success. I've got all this success on the outside that everyone's praising me for because that's what everybody wants. But I don't feel it. This doesn't feel correct to me. And I'd just been through a horribly destructive experience of what that turns into when you ignore that intuitive pull. So after about 18 months, 2 years into spiritual business coaching, I stripped it all down. I shut down the business. I took a huge kind of 8-9 month break that happened to coincide with COVID, which was brilliant because everyone was down.
Slow down.
Yeah, it was very, very well timed. And I just focused on what are the things that feel really delicious to me. What do I want to master? What am I enthusiastic about? I'm so tired of kind of making these lovely looking things on the outside that don't feel like they're a representation of me and my journey and what I desire and what I can bring to the world. So I re-qualified in a lot of things. I mean, I think that the list of tools that I use in large part is down to that year, to that experience of, I've always been fascinated with energetics. I love any aspect of energetics. Give me like a system and a language that talks about energetics and I'm there. I'm ready to talk about it. I want to learn about it. I want to see how it applies. I want to see how it feels. And I just learned. I just learned because I wanted to learn. There was no strategy in it at all. But at the end of that year, one of the things that I'd certified in was human design, because human design had come into my life. I thought it was a really, really interesting system. I knew a lot of people that were human design teachers, but I didn't want to join that ballpark at all. And I was really surprised that at the end of that year, I came back out of that kind of big shutdown, that big rest. And I thought, I want to build a human design business, but I don't want to speak to everyone. The only thing that makes me feel fulfilled and connected is speaking to manifestors. Oh, sorry, there's my dog getting very excited because the garbage truck is here and it's his mortal enemy. So it's a very big day for him, garbage truck days.
Oh my God, that's funny. It's all good.
So I just took a hunch. I mean, it wasn't strategic for me to isolate down and niche down to one specific energy type. It was purely because I didn't want to speak to anyone else, even though that's what everyone else was doing in human design. And what was really beautiful about that is that it's unintentionally very manifestor. Very, we can go into that later, but that's a very manifestor way to do things. So it was a beautifully aligned action for me without knowing it. And additionally, it really created a cool ripple effect through the human design space, where after I created the manifestor community and niched down to one energy type, then communities all over the board sprung up doing exactly the same thing, speaking to generators, to reflectors, to projectors.
So
and now pioneered. That's a really normalized part. Yeah, without meaning to. And it's been such a beautiful thing to witness the impact that we're able to have by simply just honoring our own energy, by honoring what is correct for us. It doesn't cause destruction. It causes really beautiful things to be catalyzed into life.
And that must have been so scary to lose so much of a base, but you were going off your past experience of doing something that you wasn't in alignment with yourself. You got sick and you felt yourself going that way again, even though you were successful at spiritual business coaching. It almost seems like it's a short, okay, I'm good at this. This is what I can create. I know it from my past experience, but it wasn't resonating with your soul. And when you took that break, you're like, this is it. You put your finger on the dot, but it must have been scary because you're losing a whole, like there's three other types in the human design. So all those others, a lot of coaches, people in any type of business, like you're losing this whole audience, but then you stayed true to yourself by like, no, it's manifestors. And because of that, those people they came to you. Now they have their own community and you encourage other people to take that risk and, maybe go more specific and granular in each design type.
Yeah. It was terrifying. It really was. Manifestors are only 9% of the population. And I had a lot of those conversations with people at the time, other business owners in the space with me, people who'd been my coaches, and everyone was like, Holly, we don't know about this, right? Like, you spent all of this time building this audience base, you're going to ostracize essentially 91% of them. You'll be starting from the ground up again. Is that really what you want to do? And I was so dedicated to just honoring myself because I had been through that healing loop so many times that I was just done. And I think we all reached that point with different aspects of our own patterns. We get so bored of our own patterns, so over repeating the same things that it's a huge risk to change things drastically and to move in a completely new direction. But it also feels like it's the only option if I'm going to truly love myself and honor myself in this process.
And that's so important for everybody that's listening to really honor that within yourself, because you can create so many amazing things when you do listen to that and you follow that intuition and voice. Now, manifestors. Can you quickly explain quickly? It's so intricate, the human design, but what a manifestor is. I mean, of course, everyone goes to you and then they get their chart done and see if they're a manifestor. But in a nutshell, I guess, can you explain what a manifestor is?
Yeah, the manifestors are the weird ones. You can always tell a manifestor usually because firstly, we're rare. Like I said, only 9% of the population. The only rarer energy type than us is the reflectors at 1%. So it's not unusual for people to have not ever come across a manifestor or a reflector for that case.
Really, in their life.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. But generally people know when they do because our energy frequency is so different. We're the only energy type in the human design system where we've got kind of the generators and the manifesting generators on one part, which are our sacral beings, like you, beautiful soul, with that like sunlight and that ability to be creative and productive and responsive and engaging, and you build things and you master things. It's incredible. And then on the non-sacral aspect, we've got the projectors, the manifestors, and the reflectors. And the non-sacrals don't have the ability for that responsiveness. We don't have the ability to be consistently creative, consistently productive. We move through life at a completely different pace. Basically, we're always tired because we live in a world that for 70% of the population, doing work and activity and responding is satisfying and it gives you energy. But for the non-sacrals, at 30% of the population, it takes energy away from us. So usually you can spot a non-sacral because they're perpetually tired and often thinking that something is really wrong with them, when actually it's just that we need a lot more rest than the average person. A manifestor, though, is different even within that. So yeah, we have some similarities to the other non-sacrals, but we are markedly different in the way that our energy is experienced, because everybody else, every other energy type, so our generators, our manifesting generators, our projectors, and our reflectors, all have kind of different variations of open energy, open auras. They're either open and warm, open and penetrating, open and inclusive, open and enveloping. A manifestor has a closed energy type. And the reason that we have that is because the manifestors are the people who are here to receive what we call creative urges. Other people would probably call them ideas or visions. We just feel a sense of, there's this thing that I have to initiate. I have to kind of create a different path. I have to do something completely different, completely new. We receive a creative urge and we go about initiating it. So we create it, we bring it into life, and it creates a whole road, right? It creates this whole energy ripple effect where people are then able to respond to that and build off that. But to do that, the manifestor has to be very energetically separate from people, because we're receiving creative urges from, I mean, a lot of people have different words for it. I personally feel like it's the source energy, a divine energy. Other people feel it's God. Other people feel it's the universe. Other people feel it's a 5D frequency. It really doesn't
whatever
matter.
You want. No.
Correct. It comes from a conduit that is not seen. And it's received for us in our bodies. Nobody else can see it. Nobody else can feel it. We have to bring it to life. And then other people are able to engage with it. That process of initiation is incredibly intense. It's like birthing a human being. It's genuinely like being pregnant and having a baby. And so we will do that maybe twice a year if we're lucky. And we'll go into a frenzy that we call a creative cycle, where we're bringing that creative urge to life. We're initiating it. We can push out 2 years worth of work in 2 months. We're insane. We're a little bit manic. We're obsessive about it. We don't want anybody to interrupt us. We don't really care about your opinion about what we're doing. You know, so manifestors are always this sort of rebellious, like left of center people. But then after that process is complete, we are exhausted. And we go into very, very long periods of sustained rest. And we're talking about months at least of sustained rest, where we don't have any urges. And we're still initiating people, sure, but we're not building out any spectacular thing. So often, like I said, people can usually identify a manifestor in their life because there's that sense of like, your energy is different to everyone else's. And I can't quite pick why that is, because I can't fully read you, but you do things your own way, and you're independent, and you go rogue, and you don't like being held down, and you're not the same as everyone else. You don't do life the same as everyone else. So I find that a lot of manifestors, when they come into human design, it's a really beautiful healing experience, because there's finally language for why they are different and why that is a really beautiful thing for the world, rather than something that's wrong with them or broken.
So for a quick example, I mean, I keep seeing Elon Musk or Albert Einstein or maybe the Wright brothers, or just get these ideas out of like the field, and they work hard. Kentucky Fried Chicken. Colonel Sanders, he had to go to 100 plate. He got rejected 100 times before someone took his recipe in. Do you have an example of a manifestor?
Oh, yeah. We've got some really cool, iconic manifestors, both on the great side and the terrible side, because obviously a manifestor using that energetic ability to initiate new things, if they're not doing that in alignment and in integrity, can be incredibly destructive. That's a powerful destructive force. So historically, we've got Adolf Hitler was a manifestor. That's an example of creating destruction, right? At the moment, Putin is a manifestor. Interestingly, though, on the other side of that, like Russia-Ukraine war, Zelensky is also a manifestor. So we see these two manifestors now politically going head to head, one seeking to bring destruction, one seeking to bring unity and harmony. And I think that's really indicative of why that has gone on for so long, because energetically, they're matched. They're two big figureheads. So I'm really curious, just from an observer point of view on the manifestor energy, exactly how that's all going to play out. But on the really kind of beautiful impact side, we've got people like Jane Austen was a manifestor. Maya Angelou was a manifestor. Frida Kahlo was a manifestor. Al Gore was a manifestor. We have heaps in the music industry. Adele is a manifestor. She's a brilliant one to watch, because she does her own thing all the time. She comes out with one album every 5 years and then disappears.
How cool
in between
that she can do that.
And then she'll
money
correct and then she'll correct she'll come out in a frenzy. She'll create a new album. She'll be everywhere for a year, and then she's gone again. And you don't know where she is or what she's doing or if she's coming back. And yet she's one of the highest grossing artists of all time, right? So manifestors do have a very alternative rhythm. We've got a very different way of doing things, and it's so nice to be able to view these manifestors in public life, because we can so distinctly see, oh, that's the impact that you had when you initiated that whole new thing. You initiated this thing that we hadn't seen before, and now we all get to experience it. Like the guy that created the Eiffel Tower, he was a manifestor. That's why it's called the Eiffel Tower, because his surname was Eiffel. He said, if I'm going to create something for the world, it may as well have my name on it.
I didn't know that.
And look at how impactful that landmark is, because one manifestor created something completely unusual and completely different. And often the reality for us in experiencing being the people that bring that to life is that we get a lot of resistance from other people. We get a lot of people that don't understand it, don't necessarily want to be on board. They think it's new, it's scary, it doesn't make sense. We move at a speed they don't understand. So often it's not until much further down the track, where people have settled in with the thing that we've created, that then they can say, oh, actually, that was amazing, right? Oh my goodness, isn't Jane Austen's work incredible? But at the time, she was hated. She was laughed out.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So
was it because she's a woman and it was romantic?
Yes. Correct. She was a single woman. She was never married, and she was writing about epic romance love stories. And she, first and foremost, should not have been a woman writing, quote unquote, should.
We've come
should
a
not have
long
been
way.
a woman writing. Yeah, right. And additionally, she was considered to be writing about things that she had no understanding about. She wrote an entire new genre of work. Tolkien, who wrote the Lord of the Rings series, also a manifestor, entirely new genre of literature. So we can see in retrospect, oh, wow, all of these things were amazing. Like, look at what they created. But a very typical story for manifestors is it was not accepted at the time. And we need to learn to be very connected to our sovereignty during that initiation process, to trust what it is that we're bringing forth until people are able to connect with it.
Mm-hmm. So when you work with people and they come to you and they get their chart read and they discover that they're a manifestor, do you find that they've already got some kind of inkling or idea of what they want to create or bring forward? Like, have they had ideas like, oh, I want to write this book, or I have this idea for that? And then it just, once they discover they're a manifestor and all the aspects that go along with it, does it take long for them to bring something into fruition, into this reality, to create something, since there's so few of them?
I find that manifestors, when they're first starting that journey, I guess, into the language of human design, they've already identified that they're different. They've already identified that they have tried to be like everybody else. They've tried to keep up. They've tried to do it the normal way, and it's not good for them. It's not correct. And universally, manifestors all feel a sense within us that we're here for something big. We're here to make impact. We're not here for mediocrity. We're not here to be normal. We're not here to be average. We're not here to do what other people do. But until we receive a creative urge that gives us a direction to move that initiating energy into, it can feel really frustrating, actually, because it's this oppressive sense of, I'm here to do something big,
but I don't
know what it is. I don't know, and I don't know which way to go with it. And so a lot of the work that's involved in those beginning stages for a manifestor is just learning how to connect with the creative urges and learning how to give over to those creative urges, that even once we've initiated it and it's out, we're bored with it. We disconnect. We don't want to play in it anymore. We're not interested in it. And we have to allow that rest period before a different creative urge comes through and we'll go in an entirely different direction. So there's even manifestors that have already kind of identified that experience, especially in business. Oh, I had an urge and I built out this amazing business and it's really incredible and everybody loves it. And now I don't want to do it anymore. I want to burn it to the ground, but that's crazy. I've got to make myself show up and meet this thing and be consistent. Actually, you don't. It's for you, your energy is designed to initiate and then let go. We're here for the birth process. That's all.
I just turned my mic's back on now. I had a cough.
Yes, you're struggling. You're doing so well.
Holly's watching me turn my microphone on and off as I blow my nose and cough.
You're doing great.
To spare y'all too. Sounds really loud. Okay. So, you know what came to mind? I'm wondering, do you find that a lot of people that are on the spectrum, autism or on the spectrum, do you think find that they're manifestors? Because a lot of them are gifted. You know, we understand what autism is with a lot of people. Before, years ago, they were just weird in school. Now, thank God, there's a diagnosis for it. And they happen to be very super intelligent. A lot of them are just connected to the field way more than we are normal. So
the average humans.
Yeah,
definitely. There's certainly a really interesting cross connection between neurodivergence, autism, Asperger's, ADHD, ADD, bipolar. There's a really interesting kind of school of conversation around that now, because we have a different language for viewing that stuff with. We also have more social acceptance, I think, around. Maybe it's not that these people are weird, like you said. Maybe it's that they're connected into something different than many of us are. I think rather than it necessarily applying strictly to manifestors, I've seen it apply a lot more to non-sacrals. So projectors, manifestors, and reflectors, as these people who are not sacral. We don't have the consistent energy of productivity, creativity, responsiveness. We can't engage in the normal standards of society. Those people typically tend to show up with neurodivergent qualities, which I love that the conversation around neurodivergence has moved into this very protected, like accepted field. Like, oh, look at all of the beautiful qualities that come forth with neurodivergence. And I think that we're moving down the right avenue with that. We're accepting that being different is actually a gift. Being different is a beautiful thing. And I personally, I don't resonate with the psychological frames, the psychological labels. They've never been beneficial to me as an individual, but I know many, many people where that is the language that feels correct for them. And that is the access point that gives them self-awareness. I think it's really testament to like build your own toolbox. You don't have to be dogmatic about one way of viewing yourself. Self-awareness is this incredible lifelong journey. Mix and match. Take what resonates with you from a lot of different fields and see how that creates the tapestry of who you actually are.
Because labels, it's a lot of labels are just fracturing yourself into all these little boxes to be accepted into the world or society. We're seeing people caught into all these other boxes when really it is I am that I am really is the all accepting. But for someone that has felt out of place for so many years, especially as a young child, I mean, kids can be so mean in school to be like, okay, I do have this, and then autism on this spectrum, and there's classes for them and there's ways for them to learn. And I'm just so fascinated with it because I just know now just about how they have access to so many other parts of their brain, and they have access to way more than I have access to right now. They're really just gifted. So what did you say it was? A neurodivergent? Is that what you call it?
Yeah. Neurodivergence is the whole field of looking at neural capacity that operates in ways that we don't expect. And there's a whole range of I hate the fact they're called behavioral disorders. I hate the fact that they're called that. It's not a disorder. It's not an issue.
Behavioral.
Like, let's make that better.
Yeah. Well, I just spoke with someone where it's like your word is your wand, like saying something, like changing that word into, I have to think about it.
Maybe it's just an extended capacity, right? Yeah. They have a way of viewing things and behaving in response to the world that is outside of our normal frame of reference. And I think that there's a lot of celebration in the neurodivergence space now, which is really cool to see. I think that's a really amazing progress of us as a society, not just in the spiritual spaces, but across the board as a collective of humans.
I keep thinking of that movie. Was it Mockingbird or what was that one? The Divergence, or maybe it was movie Divergent. I'm like, I'm a divergent. If they come after us, I'm a divergent. I'm taking off like outside of the city. Like that's what I always refer to. I'm like, I'm going to be the one that's out there. The Divergent. I
love that movie series.
Yeah, which was it?
Great books. It's the Divergent series.
Yeah, the Divergent series. Yeah, I'm like, that's me. Yeah. Come on, friends. This is where we're going. All right. So tying this into how can people really incorporate this into their own lives? Like, so they can create business and bring these gifts out into the world, but how can it impact their friends, their families, and their work life, knowing their type and their manifestor, using human design for their own life?
Yeah, well, everything's energy, right? I think you said it before, like we don't live in a room where it's just us and our energy. Energy is not compartmentalized. So whatever we are experiencing energetically of ourselves is exactly what we are seeing reflected back to us in the world. And when we're trying to be an energy or present ourselves in a way that it's not actually energetically who we are, that's where we start to experience a lot of difficulty. That's where we start to get these kind of fractures within ourselves. We break down the relationship within ourselves, which is incredibly harmful for us to do. It's often also what results in business. Typically, it will result in either having no success in business and feeling like you're hitting a wall all the time, or it will result in what I experienced where you get the success, but it doesn't actually feel good. It doesn't give you anything, and it's still just as harmful. I think the cool thing about human design as a system is that it's quite black and white. It's actually quite a masculine system. It's very structural. It's very multi-layered, and it gives you a blueprint of this is you in an energetic blueprint. The fundamental basis of human design is that it's the science of differentiation, which is atypical. That's not the same as all of our other systems of self-awareness and esoteric practice, where those systems, when we're looking at things like astrology, Myers-Briggs, the Enneagrams, all those systems are saying, let's categorize ourselves in ways that we're similar. How are you like other Aquarius energy people? How are you like other ENFJs? Human design from the very beginning says, we're not interested in how you're the same as everyone else. We're interested in how you're uniquely different. Knowing that you could even, I mean, for me as a manifestor, I could come up side by side with another manifestor and we're going to be completely different individuals because we have so many layers of our energetic blueprints that are individualized and is never fully replicated in another human being. And there's so much freedom in that. There is so much permission. I find a lot of people come into human design and the first things they start to experience are, I feel like I just got given permission to be me. I don't have to adapt myself anymore to be all of these things that I should be or that people see in me, right? I can just be myself, and I can also go through a process of putting down and shedding all of the things I've picked up along the way. We call it conditioning. All of this conditioning I've picked up along the way that tells me that I shouldn't be who I am. I can let that go. I can put it down and I can just be myself. But I think any system, any practice of energetics that brings you into closer connection with your own energy, brings you into more self-awareness and more self-love, doesn't matter what that is going to have an enormously positive impact on everything in your life. It's not just going to affect how you feel about yourself. It's going to impact your work or your business. It's going to impact every single one of your relationships. It's going to impact your physical body, your health, your sleep, your emotional regulation, all of it, because we're not kind of one system machines. We're holistic vessels. So the more you can understand your own energy and give yourself permission to be in that energetic state that is natural and correct and aligned for you, the more you're going to see that alignment reflected back to you from the outside world. Mm-hmm. And if human design is the language that resonates, amazing. Mm-hmm. Use it. If something else resonates, incredible. Use that too.
Mm. So the charts, you had said that there's no chart. Human design is the same. And I know a lot of times with astrology charts, I could have a best friend that was born 2 months later, maybe in Michigan around the same time, whatever. But 2 months in her chart's pretty much the same in an astrology chart. I forgot which one it is. It's a full astral chart. So the human design, so say if she was born 2 months later than me, it's going to be completely different. I forgot what aspects that you take in order, because isn't it your year of birth and your place of birth? Gosh, it's Correct. So different being that close together. I like that because a lot of times I look at the chart, I'm like, gosh, it's just telling me the same thing that my friend has, but we're different than each other.
Yeah. I mean, in human design, the energy type is like the outside. I call it the onion because human design's got so many layers. And energy type is the outside of the onion. It's the only slightly generalized part of human design that it breaks us down into these different energy type categories. And so, you're going to meet another generator and you'll have resonance with that. Like, oh, we've got some similarities. We operate kind of the same way in the world. Like, I dig your energy. That feels familiar to me. That's really cool. But the further down you get into that onion, the more layers you go down, the more different you'll find that you are. So that's because human design is actually a hybrid system. It's not in and of itself a completely original system. What it does is that it brings in a combination of many, many energetic systems. So we've got astrology, a big component of astrology, which is why you need to enter your birth date and time and location. And that's how your chart is generated. We've also got the I Ching, the chakra system, Kabbalah. We also have a kind of heavy dose of science in there. There's epigenetics, there's quantum physics, there's biomechanics in there as well. So you'll find that each layer of human design kind of represents a different part of the system, right? There'll be this sort of flavor of a different part brought in. From energy types, you go into things like your profile numbers and your inner authority, and you've got your energy centers and your gates and your channels and your circuits and your environment and your motivation. There's so many layers to dig through. And the more you uncover, I think the more that you discover the nuances of who you are as an individual.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot to learn about it. I think I tried to dive in at one point, and
it's overwhelming at first.
Oh my God, you definitely need somebody to work with like yourself to guide somebody through it. So that's what's great about what you're doing and your website or your Manifestor community. And then you have a Hunting for Purpose podcast where you talk about it, but really need somebody to help guide you through the human design. And how has it really impacted your life personally? I know this is one of the modalities that you chose to use over a lot of the others, your toolbox, which is huge. So out of all those, you could have gone into like, oh yeah, I want to just do more breath work, or, I want to do more Reiki. That's, where I want to build my business around. But with that 10 months that you took off during COVID, and within a year, you're like, this is it. You just listen to that intuition, and what is that thumb? Do you see that?
I don't know. Yeah, that was like a weird little like thumbs up on your screen.
I don't know.
That's cute.
There must be AI or something listening to me, because earlier when I was setting up, there were balloons going up across the screen. Oh. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to look in my settings.
I feel like we just got validated though. That was nice.
Yeah, we did.
Whoever
Good question.
Thank you.
So yeah, if you could just how this has impacted your own life. I mean, of course, you've built a business around it, but how have you seen personal transformations within yourself just by using the human design and your knowledge of being a manifestor?
I don't think that there is anything in my life that is untouched by this now. My whole family now kind of operates within the human design language. I have a husband, I have 3 children. We're all incredibly aware of our own designs, how we work together between our designs, what that means for us as a family unit.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's an incredible way to raise children. Oh my God, it's an incredible way to raise children, because it takes out all of that experience of, oh, my kids are really different, and why did this work for that kid but it didn't work for that kid, and why don't they do things the way that I expect them to do? When you have a literal energetic blueprint of who your child is, especially in childhood before they're very heavily conditioned and wounded, you can facilitate environments and language and relational connection that is perfect for them, that's completely aligned for them. And all that does is encourages them to be more of themselves, which is extraordinary. And I think, as any mother would say, that expands us as parents enormously, right? Because we're being taught by our children all the time. My children show me so much about being authentic and being real. I know the human design of every single person in my life, whether they're into human design or not. A lot of people in my life are not into human design, but they graciously give me their birth details.
Well, you know how to relate to them then.
Yeah. So I can tailor how I connect with them to be a way that really is felt by them as love. And that has had a very big influence on the depth and the level of emotional intimacy in all of my relationships with everyone. Because what I noticed was that a lot of people in my life then started saying to me, I feel like you really see me. I feel really seen. I feel really recognized. And that for me was everything, right? I'm a very relational being that has always been important to me, to make people feel loved and wanted. And this is like a cool little manual. It's like a shortcut that I get to do. And they don't need to know that unless they want to. It's changed the way that I work. Like, all of my work rhythm is completely different now to what it used to be. I was very much the, driven, disciplined, motivated, work 80 hours, 90 hours, 100 hours, keep showing up. Yeah. Wow. I don't even know now how I did that. I don't actually, I don't get it now. I work maybe 15 to 20 hours a week. As an average,
because there's a certain point where just worthless. Like can't do it. My eyes are burning from looking at the computer and like I'm exhausted from my back hurts.
Correct.
How do you do it? Like I don't know how people do it.
I'm not producing good work here. This is not good quality work.
Take care of yourself.
I work very seasonally now. I'm very, very reliant on my ability to initiate. My whole team is set up around that. The way that I exercise, the way that I sleep, the way that I eat, the way that I communicate, all of it is influenced by my understanding of human design. But that's also because I'm about 6 years in. So I've had a lot of time with this to play around with it. And I think that's important for people to note. I mean, there are people that I know that have been in human design for 20 years and they're incredible, right? They're like, their embodiment of their own energy is pure. So it's like crystal clear. And I love witnessing that. But I think there's a bit of a tendency when people first come into any energetic practice, any energetic awareness, it's like, oh, when is it going to work for me?
Mm-hmm.
When is it going to yield all of these really juicy transformations to me? Like, go one step at a time. Mm-hmm. Start with your energy type. If it appeals to you, start with your energy type and make the necessary shifts in your life that you need to make to be more honoring of that energy, to be more in alignment. And you'll start to see it influence everything. You'll start to see it shift all around you. You've just got to be willing to actually make the changes. Like, we can't all keep up working 100 hours a week and then expect to be in alignment. It's not going to work.
How incredible that your whole family, because didn't they at one point, like your spiritual practices, weren't they kind of like, oh yeah, you can do your, so they're all in. Yeah. But how did you get them all on board with this? I mean, I think
I'm a manifestor. Yeah,
your husband too.
So I have the ability to just initiate people into things. I just kind of kept saying, this is what we're doing. This is the direction that we're going. Get on board. But I think that when people start seeing that it's transforming you and that it's opening you up and you're feeling so much healthier, it becomes really appealing to others. And they want to know about it. And they want to get on board and they want to learn about it. And children in particular are so open. They're just so willing to receive everything. Yeah, which is so beautiful. And my husband is a very typical Australian non-spiritual person. He grew up on a farm, he's certainly from that conservative background. Spirituality was just weird and woo-woo and different. And he's a projector, so he's a non-sacral type as well. And I think I was probably in human design for about 4 years before he started dabbling his toes in the water. But now he meditates and he does breath work. And he journal reflects and he knows his human design. And it's really transformed everything in his life. He had a complete career change. His body has changed. The way that he connects in our marriage has changed. So, I think a lot of people have that difficulty, especially women, because women are so much more inclined to be spiritual and in tune and intuitive than males are.
Look at the yoga classes.
It's all women. It's all
pretty
women
much.
Everywhere.
Some men, some sweaty, smelly men, but
that's it.
Don't sweat on my mat.
When you're partnered with a male who is not interested in spirituality, it can feel like it's a real tug of war. Like they don't understand this thing that is really, really important to me. And I just think it's so important to be accepting and aware that everyone is going to create a different way of connecting to themselves. It doesn't have to be the way that you do it, right? I love sitting in like spiritual circle and ceremony and plant medicine and sage and Palo Santo and right. I love that, right? I am all about like floating up into the clouds and being weird and being super spiritual. My husband is never ever going to do that, but that doesn't mean that his spiritual practice is not great and it's not deep and it's not something that is really, really powerful for him. So give people time to figure out their own pathway.
Yeah, what an incredible tool to bring to relationship, to bring to a marriage. But he won the lottery with you, girl. He won it. Like everything in his life is just taken on a whole different trajectory. And your kids, it must have helped with like fighting, because the siblings. How you have two boys? How do you have all boys, girls, mix?
I have 2 boys and a girl.
Okay. So it must have helped a lot with that fighting, because they're like, oh yeah, well, she's projecting this and I'm reflecting this back to her. And it helped as far as them relating to each other much more? It's got to have. I mean, you still fight as kids.
I was going to say, they still argue. They're at the moment, they are 15, 13 and 10. So they are right at the point where they either love each other or hate each other. And there is no in between. There's nothing, right? Yeah. Somebody breathes in their direction and they think it's the greatest defense they've ever experienced. But it is really cool to see them like using this language with each other. Like my eldest is a projector, my son. My daughter is a generator in the middle, and my youngest son is a manifestor.
Wow.
Yeah, so very different energy types. And hearing them have that communication with each other of like, oh, he's just being such a manifestor, or like, man, your generator energy is a lot now, or I just need to go and have a projector nap. And it's really cool to see that for them it's so normalized that they always want me to run the charts of their friends so I can find out who their friends are, like what that means and how they can relate to them. And even for some teachers that are open to it, we'll drop a little bit of information about, you know, our kids' energy type or our kids' profile or something like that to help the environment be more suitable for them. I think that we're seeing a generation now of children who are so much more awake than the people that have come before them, so much more energetically sensitive, so much more accepting of individualization, and they want to make a contribution to the world that is really meaningful and is really authentic. And I personally am actually I feel really privileged as a mother to have any part in raising that generation, and human design has been so helpful for us to, as a vehicle, as a structure, to help that along. And I also enormously celebrate the people who use all of the other things, right? If whatever you dig with your kids, if it's like numerology, if it's breathwork, if it's meditation, like whatever works. We've got these very spiritually intelligent children, and it's a great thing to foster that and to learn from them, because they're changing the world.
Absolutely. And I really wish they would bring something like this to the schools, and along with a lot of spiritual practice, not like woo-woo religious or whatever, but it's just teaching them to be really, you know, self-loving, self-aware, compassionate, all that stuff, understanding yourself, not all these little boxes that they're trying to thrust out at kids nowadays, like all this indoctrination that I've seen that's happening with some of these programs. It's like, no, can we put human design, or can we put something that's going to elevate them and not make them feel bad about themselves? Something that's going to unite us as kids and, you know, work together in harmony. So I think maybe at some point something like this can go into our schools. I mean, I'd love to learn it myself, because the way I relate, like sisters and all that, it could really help me a lot in my own life. I think everybody's life. And with that said, I would love for you to let us know, my audience know, where is the best way to find you and work with you? And what do you have that might be lighting you up? Do you have something?
Yeah. Like we've said, I focus on manifestors. So I'm a little bit of a weird one in the human design space. If you're a manifestor, if you know a manifestor, if you coach a manifestor, if you love a manifestor, come on by. We're at the Manifestor community. There's a lot of us, a lot of manifestor energy around, and we have a lot of non-manifestors who sit and respectfully observe, kind of like face up to the glass, watching us and learning along, which is a really, really beautiful, gorgeous thing to experience. For those people who are curious about human design and want to learn those like stepping stones, what are the basics of the system? How do I start to get into this and understand it? There are so many amazing teachers out there. We've got Day Luna, Erin Claire Jones, the Human Design lady, Eden Carpenter, just to name a few people. So if that's the place where you're at on your journey, you've got to like learn a bit of the system. I could not recommend those people more highly. If you're a manifestor or you want to specifically learn about manifestors, come on by to the Human Design, not the Human Design community, the Manifestor community. And at the moment, we are moving into a really cool space this year. I've changed our business model from being a very consistent business model like everybody else in the online space, where we, create a product and we launch it, and then we create another product and we launch it. And we've taken the leap into having a seasonal business model where we squash everything together into an intensive build season. So at the moment, we're just about to wrap up our first build season, where we've created and initiated 5 new projects. Then we'll move into a launch season where all of those will come out very rapidly back to back. And then we're going to go into a rest season where it'll be all quiet on the Western Front, like no new stuff. Don't come at us for anything. We're all resting. So it's a very manifested model. I haven't seen it done before, and I'm really enjoying playing with it. But it means that as we move into kind of March and April, all of these new projects that we've been working on are going to be coming out live. So working on new custom charts. We wrote a book last year. There's going to be more accessibility to the book. Of course, it's a book about manifestors. We've got kind of revamping our signature program, which is the Manifestor Mastery program. So a lot of just kind of, this is like the manifestor element, right? Where it's just new things, fun, razzle dazzle, like all of the lights, here's all of the new things, and then I'm going to go away and you won't see me for a while. So now's a good time to drop in, I think, if you're curious about the manifestor space.
I love that. It's a way to nurture yourself, is you just put it all out, you're active and busy, and then you nurture yourself. I used to do that where when I was doing real estate, I only wanted to work with one client at a time and nurture them. And I'd sell them. I'm done with you. I'm going on vacation. Okay. It's time to get another one. Okay. Work with somebody else, go on vacation. That's the way I like to operate myself. So your book, Informed Manifestor, I saw that on your site. That's out right now? I saw a lot of different outlets that it's available on, like Amazon is one. There's a bunch of
we released it in December, so it's available on Amazon worldwide. There are quite a few people who are not enjoying purchasing through Amazon at the moment, which is wonderful personal choice.
It's gotten expensive on Amazon. It's like
it's a bit of a thing. It is a bit of a thing.
And they made the most money over the pandemic. It's like, really? They transferred so much wealth to themselves. They're one of them, and now even Amazon Video, you're going to have to watch video or commercials now. It's like, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's an enterprise for sure. It is a capitalist corporation.
Oh yeah.
So for those people who don't love purchasing through Amazon, which is unfortunately the only way we can get something global to every different country, we also just have a PDF version of the book available on our website. So you don't have to go through Amazon to do it.
Okay. What is that saying? It's a means to an end, or there's a saying with it. Yeah.
I think
sometimes you have
until another manifestor. Until another manifestor creates another third-party sales platform, calling out to all of the manifestors out there that have tech ability and would like to do something new. This is the way that we have to operate.
Yes. Manifestor to manifestor. And then your Hunting for Purpose podcast, is that focused around manifestors as well?
Yeah, it is. It is. I like to have a lot of conversations with people from different fields of spiritual practice.
Okay, great.
I really enjoy sitting in different language, different perspectives, different practice. So we run a lot of guests that just bring really cool kind of flavors about what they do and how they see the world. So it's not exclusively manifestors on there. We do largely do manifestor content, right? Manifestor focused content on there though. So again, we find a lot of people listen to the podcast either because they are manifestors or because they know a manifestor and they want to understand it. We have a lot of people that have children who are manifestors. They're a parent, they're not a manifestor, but their child is, and they listen to the podcast and they learn a lot, which is so gorgeous to receive that feedback that the little manifestors around the world are now being understood and raised differently because of this resource.
The little manifestors. I've got your podcast up here right now. I've subscribed to it, and you have 175. Yeah, I can't wait to listen to some of these episodes. When HD, collaborate with manifestors. Very cool. Very cool. And I like your whole design. The color is very soothing. It reminds me of something angelic.
Thank you. Yeah, I have an incredible brand manager who's a projector who's worked with me for years. So
well, isn't that wonderful?
I set the energetic tone and she builds it out, which is
an
ideal in relationship.
Your team. I do it all myself right now. Eventually I'll have a team of my own that can create all that stuff. So, okay, well, wonderful. It was so wonderful talking with you. I know you've got your day it's beginning. It's morning out there. I loved our conversation. I do have one more question before we go. And since I am the Awaken Heart podcast, I'd love to hear from you what it means for you to I'd love to hear from you what it scratch. I would love to hear from you what it means to live with an awakened heart.
Oh, I love that question. I think for me, it's two things. It's the ability to love myself enough to just express myself authentically, that my heart is open in all experiences. But then the other part of that is the willingness to use my whole heart to love other people and to connect with other people, because that's actually how we grow. That's actually how we move forward. Growth is not an isolated thing. It always happens in relationship, always happens in connection. It's the most powerful place for us to heal, for us to change, for us to transform, for us to build new things and to change the world, right? Like, this is how we do it. It's very Aquarian age, like bring the people together. And the only way that we can do that is really if we're in connection with our own hearts and we're loving our own hearts. So yeah, I love that whole concept. I think we could all do with being more heart-centered.
Absolutely. And I felt that when you were saying that. Well, Holly, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure having you on the Awaken Heart podcast. I loved our conversation, and I hope that everyone listening will go and seek this lovely lady out and learn your own human design. And maybe you're a manifestor. Connect with Holly.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise. All right. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Awaken Heart podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, share it with a friend. And if you haven't already, head on over to your favorite podcast app to subscribe, rate, and review. If you have any comments, questions, or feedback, you can reach me at the awakenheartpodcast.com.